Welcome to the Coffee with Karen podcast, a weekly chat show discussing everything from holistic health to current affairs from a mental, physical and spiritual perspective. Get your weekly cup of positivity with a sprinkling of woo-woo.
Today is Tuesday and we have Tony Selimi. He's an award-winning author, speaker, filmmaker and transformational life strategist and business coach specializing in human behavior and maximizing human potential. Now we're going to be talking about, I'm going to let him tell you about it. It's going to be about his latest book. Now, I'm your host, Karen Roberts, helping coaches and therapists to get their message heard to the people who need to hear it. Now, Tony's journey is one of resilience and determination. Despite being critically ill, bullied, homeless on the streets of London, he persevered to graduate from one of the top engineering universities in the UK and build a successful information technology career working both in the private and public sectors. Now, today, Tony is a renowned TEDx speaker, multi-award winning author of A Path to Wisdom, The Unfakeable Code, and A Path to Excellence. And it's got 2 upcoming books. Tony is a serial entrepreneur and one of the world's foremost transformational life coaches and business growth experts, specializing in human behavior, the psychology of achieving personal and professional breakthroughs, excellence, empowered and purposeful living, leading, and loving. He really does have a wealth of knowledge and experience, make him a trusted resource for individuals and organizations seeking to turn their life and businesses around. So, welcome to the show, Tony.
Thank you so much, Karen, for this lovely introduction. And it's always great to be on your show.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you, Tony. Yes, I've heard your story before. We've had you on the show before. But to the listeners, if they don't know your background, you do have an incredible backstory. So would you like to share with the listeners a little bit about that?
Sure. I was born in former Yugoslavia, in Northern Republic of Macedonia, what's known today, because during the Civil War, it broke into pieces. And as many people know, millions of people lost their lives and people were dispersed and refugees and migrants across the world as a result of the atrocities of the Civil War. Now, from a very young age, I observed inequality, injustice, abuse, and never being given the opportunity just because of your different creed, different religion, and different background. And deep down, I always knew this is not right, because Macedonia, back then in communist country, they didn't really promote religion. But then religion was something personal for every individual. But even within those individuals, within those families, because at schools we were all mixed from different creeds, there was this dominant view that one religion is better or one creed is better than the other. And therefore, we almost have this master and slave kind of society where some people have opportunities and others, where women had no rights at all. And you can imagine then the minority of the people within society. And I always knew within me as a child, this is not just. So, I never bought into the idea that one's God is better than the other's God. I always knew God created us all, and whatever God means for somebody, whether universal intelligence, whatever. And I built this curiosity to really learn the mysteries of life and why I'm here and why we have those big problems in society, in family, in education, wars, civil wars, racism, nationalism, hatred, and being able to understand those inequalities and also understand how I can blend science and spirituality to help more people. And this is me at the age of 7.
Love this. It's amazing that it is still going on, isn't it? Have we not learnt anything? But it all stems from fear, doesn't it? It all stems from fear of the unknown. And it's a scarcity mindset because, no, this is mine and I'm not going to give it out to anybody that's different to me. It's, how have we not evolved from there?
Yes, evolution of human consciousness has many elements to it. And this is something I really wanted to understand from a very young age. And I've always been like a gifted child. So therefore, my parents always invested in extracurriculum activities as well as private teachers on top of my schooling. And although I went in one of the top maths and physics schools in former Yugoslavia, They still had me like professors teaching me when I was in primary school. I always been more gifted than most of the people around me. But also, I was subjected to abuse. I had illness at the age of 9 that left me hospitalized for 2 years, and where the doctors gave up and told my parents I have 3 days to live. So therefore, my parents took me back to the Spain spiritual teachers and healers who told my parents when I was born that I'll be a master healer and educator. I'll be going around the world and having a home in every homes and every person's hearts. And my parents, well, your prediction is wrong. And apparently, those people were laughing at my parents, and they started taking me in and out of hospital for 6 months. And this is where I really built the curiosity around spirituality and healing. And then this contradiction between science, when we have the medical science, and then we have a lot of amazing healers that are doing incredible work. And how come they've been contradictory with each other? Yet the basis of all of it is to help another human being heal instead of working together and maximizing that. And I think there has been a movement quite a lot when it comes to today, when we have functional medicine and we have a lot of people who are actually embracing many different ways of healing the body, mind, heart, soul, spirit. We have moved, but fundamentally, we are beings driven by how our brain operates. And the part of our brain, the amygdala, which takes all this information and creates those fears and creates those perceptions, and it's reactive. It's in every human being. So therefore, when we don't know something, the first thing is if you don't have this mental, emotional stability and you haven't been taught many tools how to handle those stresses that come from the outside, you become an animal. You react like an animal. The first thing you will do is either you fear it if you perceive that animal, whoever that might be, another human being, could be a situation, could be anything, that's going to eat you. So therefore, you run. That's where we have the fight-flight response that scientists have over the years made it very clear how amygdala works and how we respond to stresses outside in the outside environment. But then there's an element to it. How do we then manage ourselves to get better responses, better choices, better decisions when we are under tremendous stress, when you're fighting for your life? Like for me in the Civil War, I was taken from university straight into Civil War with people shooting at all sides without knowing who's the common enemy in there. Then your entire being goes into this fight and flight mode. And then also in the freeze mode. But over the years, I created the fourth one, which I say the fuck it mode. When there is a moment in your brain that you're not responding from fear, you're not responding from freezing mode or from a running mode. You just say fuck it and you just do it. And this is the pulse state that I developed over the years. And I said, in every human being, there's that moment when you don't care anymore what the fear is or what you need to do. You just do it. And this is a great state to be in because then you overcome a lot of the challenges, perceived challenges that those fears can create in ourselves. Having overcome so many challenges over my life path, and just as I was at the peak of my education, I was studying in one of the top engineering universities in former Yugoslavia. The civil war fell upon us. I saw atrocities no child should be exposed to. And then my faith in God, in universe, in everything I've studied so far was totally collapsed when I was seeing what were the horrors around me. I went through another cycle now, understanding not why everything is happening around me, but also being able to survive every second. I never knew I'm going to be alive until my life was saved. And then I ended up on the streets of London without speaking the language, without knowing anybody, and with 200 Deutschmarks back then, before the euro was introduced, that my mother borrowed from our neighbor because my father was in Bosnia being captured by the Serbs, that actually put me on a one-way flight to London. And I had those 200 Deutschmarks, which you would have maybe survived 2-3 days in London. So then I started living homeless and trying to deal with the traumas. I never knew there was a support mechanism, none of that. So I was dealing with all of that on my own, simply crying and then being able to do service. Like when I would see dirty streets, I would go and clean them and put the rubbish in the bins. And then bit by bit, people started to live in books and I started learning, I started reading. I remember somebody gave me a dictionary, Albanian English dictionary. So I had to go word by word in the dictionary to learn to read sentences in English. And eventually then I met people, eventually I got my first job, and I got 4 jobs, and then I used all of those things, first and foremost, for me to go into formal education and learn English, and then being able to go to university and fulfill those dreams that I had since I was a child, which was one was I wanted to be an architect, two, I wanted to be a spaceship captain, three, I wanted to be a heart surgeon, four, I wanted to be author, and fifth, I really wanted to heal people. So, in an essence, my journey over the last 3 decades made me all of those things because, as a life strategist, somebody who specializes in human behavior, and I've studied 30 different disciplines, I now truly help people to travel through space, and I mean their mind, and being able to venture into areas where they can really create miracles, but also to re-engineer their mind and become the architect of their mind for the reality they want to create. Just like the way architects creates a building, I really work with people to re-engineer the mind to create that perfect reality for them, whatever the soul is bringing to them. And during this process, because psychology and physiology is interlinked, so the more you transform person's psychology, the more the physiology comes to balance. So therefore, healing happens. And then also support them on a spiritual level, where I learned over 30 years many different healing modalities, and I created my own healing modality. Because all of those things are essential for you to be able to empower your spiritual, mental, emotional, your relationship, your physical body, your career, your profession, your business, your wealth, and then the social impact you want to do in the world.
Wow, love that. It sounds like where you've excelled at the more formal education and the science side of it, but by combining it with, some would say it's spiritual, but actually understanding how our minds work and the power of that and just combining it. And that's what I love about this sort of time. It's the science is being brought towards the woo, if you want to call it. And that's what's going to help people in a holistic way rather than everybody has their own specific modality. And as again, I suppose like all the fear and problems that are going on in the world, because everybody is so insistent that they are right and their way is the right way, rather than looking at the whole thing and combining it. And so this is where I think the magic is really happening with this holistic approach to the science and the rest
And
of
the
it.
spiritual knowledge, because
Yeah.
basically before science existed, you had spiritual teachers and healers like myself, like you, like other people who are serving society at a very deep level and a wonderful level. And it was those healers who actually really started science. That's why I'm a firm believer that as we go forward, as we learn more and more, we're going to be again merging science and spirituality together. And more people around the world embrace that. So one of the things that all of my clients love about my work, because they love me bringing that kind of knowledge into business, into leadership, into service, and being able to become more mindful. We started using the word mindfulness. We never had mindfulness. If you go back 20 years ago, nobody knew what mindfulness was. So, they've learned to incorporate certain languages that makes it more palatable for people who are more left brain and for people who are more right brain. And one of the things that I've loved over the years is helping both sides, because I made those incredible therapists, healers, and coaches and mentors, which they have great knowledge on the spiritual side of it, but they're very poor scientifically. So therefore, they're not able to express their ideas in a science way that the client may understand better and may be more prone to accepting that kind of knowledge. And vice versa, when I work with leaders and people who are extremely left focused and logical and stuff like that, I'm able to bring spirituality in a ways they understand it. And then with time, they start to experience profound shifts. And therefore, they become curious about learning about themselves and their spirit.
Yeah, so it's all in the result, isn't it? It's very difficult for somebody who is very left brain to accept this other stuff until they experience it for themselves. So they've got to give it a go, and then you only know
Yes,
through experience.
absolutely.
So, Tony, tell us about your latest book.
During COVID, I actually wrote two books. So one is the Unfakeable Code, And the other one is A Path to Excellence. COVID for me was a very fruitful period, and although it was scary, but the moment I saw what was happening in Wuhan and in China, I knew this is going to go global. And I did my own meditation and my own predictions, and pretty much all of that happened. And I also wrote about those in advance before everything happened. So I really wanted to solve bigger problems than the previous books. You didn't mention one of them, hashtag loneliness, by the way. So Path to Wisdom, hashtag loneliness, then The Unfakeable Code. Then I co-wrote two other books. One is Spiritual Poems in Novum 10, which I wanted to bring the spiritual aspect of me for people to have one poem every month to work on themselves and extract the wisdom of that poem on a monthly basis. And the other one was about the burnout in leadership and the stress and the things that makes a lot of leaders make bad choices, bad decisions, and therefore they can create a very bad impact in society. So Fit for Purpose Leadership book number 3 with other fellow leaders from the UK and around the world. We created this book specifically for leadership. And then I wanted to write what was happening before COVID, during COVID, and what's going to happen after COVID, which gave birth to The Unfakeable Code. And the reason I called it The Unfakeable Code is because every human being is authentic and it cannot be faked. But we tend to live our lives faking ourselves to be somebody we're not. And therefore, we have so many masks. And as a result of those masks, first and foremost, it impacts your physical well-being and your emotional well-being, which means creates illness. Stress creates illness. It's very clear in the scientific world. It's very clear in the spiritual world. It's very clear in the business world. So I wanted to help people during this most uncertain, unprecedented times we ever been through in our generation, COVID, to really take back mental and emotional control. Why? Because we faced something that really destroyed our jobs, destroyed our confidence, destroyed our faith, destroyed our well-being, and many people ended up dying. So a lot of people lost, and the loss was massive at a global scale. So we were exposed to images, to things like that really made a body, our senses and our amygdala to go overload. And caused a lot of divorce rates as well during this period because suddenly everybody was at home together and created like divisions, created a lot of theories out there, conspiracy theories, and people were in very uncertain space. So I sat down and wrote all the problems that are going to happen at a global level. What will be globally what we're experiencing? Then what will be at the leadership level of every country? What are the challenges those people will do? And then I went down at a business level, then I went down into family level, then I went down into individual level. And I broke down and classified all those problems, and I created a 5-step methodology about what is it that people can have as like a crucifix to which they can hold on to when massive uncertainty bombards your life. And how do you manage, how do you navigate your life through not only COVID, but anything like that? And the reason I did that, because working in technology, one of the responsibilities I had was disaster recovery management. So therefore, the book has a lot of the intelligence behind that, how to really handle stress and situations that can really take you off course, and how to better manage your emotions and how to better navigate the facades that we create over a lifetime that creates different personas, but not showing our true authentic self. And also how leaders can use that to become authentic leaders. And then how individuals are there, regardless of what the stress, you can live freely on your terms, meaning being able to use your knowledge, your wisdom in any situations for you to thrive during those times. So if you lost your corporate job, you can straight away start a business and do something about it. Or if you have a business, how do you adapt your business in a ever-changing economic and an uncertain world market? So that was the Unfakeable Code. And then as I finished that, and it started receiving like global awards everywhere, literary awards, 5-star awards, all of those things. I wanted to then go post-Brexit and saying, what is it that keeps people living an average life? When we have so much knowledge, when we have so much, we are a generation, both me and you, we didn't have YouTube. We didn't have internet. We didn't have all of those things. And despite having all these amazing tools out there, a lot of people struggle. A lot of people struggle financially, struggle with their mental health, emotional health, but also not giving themselves permission to be all they can be, to be all that wisdom, that intelligence, God-given intelligence, can enable you to become. So therefore, I wanted to really write what keeps people into average space and how to take them into 8-step formula, navigating all the life's adversities and go into a space of living an extraordinary life, a space of personal excellence, professional excellence, family excellence, and leadership excellence. And if you see in the cover design, I choose the colors, the entire design, for a purpose. You see here is the infinity sign, and within that, you have the balancing of the mind and the heart. And then through each step, the 8 steps, we're starting with transition, then regeneration, then focus, then rebirth, then we have balance, we have service, we have unity, we have infinity. Those are the 8 critical components of human excellence, which means through every part of your life, you go through those processes. So, for instance, transition. So, for instance, if you transition from one job to another job, if you go from being single to being married, if you go from being from a woman to being a mother, if you go from being single guy to being with another guy, whatever it might be, life transitions that takes you through, how do you navigate that process and embody the principles, universal principles, with science and spirituality together for you to go on your path and truly focus on creating that personal excellence? Then you use that to serve more people.
Wonderful. And with this, right, it seems to me, and I think what happened in the last few years, where people very much, we tended to think that we were in control of stuff. And actually, the unknown is always there. It's always been the unknown. We're not in control of anything. But I think that's where people really understood that for the first time, maybe. And that created fear. So do you think, are you saying really we have got to find a way to be comfortable and accept the unknown and not be fearful for it? Do you think that is one of the biggest problems that people have? This fear of just the unknown is causing so much stress in them, and it's making them create poor choices and things.
Acceptance is very difficult for somebody who's in the unknown space, by the way. Because they cannot even imagine to accept something that based on whatever fears they might have. So what I would say is actually engaging them to become curious and to become explorers of the unknown. And then through that exploration, through going through that journey, for them to learn tools and learn to navigate the space and then accept the challenges and the growth that they will experience in the unknown. And that is a whole different way of navigating the unknown space, because when you are in the unknown in that moment, you don't really think about, oh, I need to accept it. And they're not going to accept it. But as you help them navigate that space, and as they find their own challenges and they start become great warriors to win different battles in that space, their confidence starts growing. And therefore, you can help them grow the psychology around that. So they really become a new surfer who tries to go through the first wave and stand on the surfing board. But when you remain there, this is why I believe with all of my heart, coaches, mental therapists, all of them play an important role for people to navigate those spaces. Why? Because we can't see beyond what we see about ourselves. And we all are a mirror to each other. So I'm a firm believer in education, firm believer in mentors, in coaches, therapists, healers, any person who can help you navigate. But also I'm a firm believer, pay for what you are receiving, because you will never receive the best advice if you get it for free. So I always tell people, go and work out there and make the steps. So if you can't go at the top expert, go to the person who's slightly above you and then can help you get to there. And then go to the next person and do more job, more service, more money, and invest in yourself and grow yourself. This is how businesses have grown. Businesses grow by consistent investments. Life tells us that. Nature grows like that. And we grow like that as well. So most people don't see the parallels between nature and ourselves. So I use a lot of metaphorical teachings with clients. For instance, a client that I helped to dissolve a lot of problems with their children, I took them in front of a tree and I put them in there and I said, okay, observe the tree. And they thought I was like nuts. And I went, okay. After I got them to be stable in there, and I asked them a few questions about what they're observing. Of course, they will tell me a few things about, okay, the tree, the color, the leaves, blah, blah, blah. And I said, how come? Now stay in there 24 hours and tell the tree to grow one leaf or one branch in that direction. And they started laughing. And I said, Tree, you'll never do that. Similarly, with children, the only thing you can truly do is give those nutrients, like in the tree, the roots it needs, and the fertile ground it needs for tree to grow in itself. And just that metaphorical teachers I did for a couple of hours, their mindset fully shifted from being controlling parents to being loving parents. And then the children did the same. So by the end of the evening, when I put them together, they started creating this harmonious learning between parent and child and parent. Because most old-fashioned people, parents, they believe that they need to inject the values on somebody who they perceive is younger or less intelligent or less smart. No, if you are great as a teacher, you awaken even bigger wisdom in the person you are communicating with. And this is where parents can become very conscious parents and bring conscious children. And it's a massive transformation that I've seen with so many clients with so many different problems that they came to me about their children, whether it's addiction, whether it's not having great schools or whatever it might be. So they both transform at the same time. But it requires a higher wisdom for you to be able to lift them up and also project and inject a wisdom that they can embrace and transform their lives.
So it just goes to show all of this works. It's not just about being business. It's not just about leadership. It's just life.
You being the best human being, the most extraordinary being you can be in this life, and choosing to be that, because it's not easy when a life adversity hits us. It's not easy when you lose your job and you can't pay your bills. It's not easy when you see your children cannot have a sandwich going to school. It's not easy when you see your loved ones struggling. It's not easy when you see society being in war. It's not easy when we see a war in Ukraine or somewhere else. This part of us, no matter the differences, if we truly honor the creation, if we truly honor God, we also then need to honor, to save the sanctity of every human life. And then when you look at current leadership, for instance, in Britain, the anti-migration policies that they have, that's not human. For you to be evil in your leadership, for you to win votes to make other people suffer who are already suffering. There's nothing good leadership. There's no conscious leadership in that. And therefore, sooner or later, they will face the consequences, because the same laws that apply to all of us. If we look at law of attraction, if we look at law of karma, if we just take two laws, any leader out there should be alarmed when they do policies that truly harm other human beings.
Oh, well, couldn't say it better myself. I wouldn't be here without immigration. But where do you think things that have been going wrong? Would you put it down to the way we have been conditioned throughout school life, the things that children are learning? If they learned what you are offering, do you think we'd have pretty much world problems dealt with in one generation?
Yes, we will handle those problems, but then we will create challenges which are more inspiring. Because there's no point us continuing this cycle that we've been over thousands of years. Because we have been evolving as human beings, therefore our intelligence has evolved. But the question remains that when you have individuals within human consciousness, that they choose the dark side to nurture the dark side of themselves. And therefore, so no matter how much we grow as a society, we will always have challenges. But a conscious society will create challenges which are inspiring. And when you have challenges which are inspiring, then we are challenged to create solutions which are inspiring, and solutions which are sustainable solutions. And it doesn't just take care of me and you, Karen, but it takes care of every human being. For me, true leadership is when you have a group of individuals who are extremely grounded and well-rounded with knowledge, with wisdom, with all of that, and then create a better vision for humanity. And better vision for education, for healthcare, for the way we collaborate, for the way we exchange goods and services, for the way we make it easy. I'm a firm supporter of Britain being in the EU, and I voice my concerns of why that is. Because if any parent out there is listening to this, you just remove your child's freedom to go and work and live and educate and integrate with 27 or 30 countries in EU. We killed a lot of businesses, and we killed our own freedoms, and we locked ourselves within the UK. So some countries around the world will fight wars to join the EU, to join the freedom and the collaboration and the spirit we had during the membership into EU. Now, all of those fake promises that were given during the Leave campaign just created the problems we are currently experiencing. And this is where then the laws of karma and the laws of attraction kick in, just to humble people to stop with their arrogance. It's good when somebody serves you, but then you give in to extremism, nationalism, whether it's far right or far left. You're not creating a vision, collective vision for the country and educating people. And I'm a firm believer, anything that starts with a lie ends badly. This is something my parents told me from a very young age. And if we look back, regardless what people voted, Leave or Remain, I respect people's vote. But what I do not respect is giving in to lies and then making choices and decisions based on lies. Then you have one lie, another lie. And when the lie comes into truth, everything collapses. And we've seen what happened with Boris Johnson. While people were all like infatuated by Boris Johnson, if he turned around and was very honest with the people, most likely he will make a good president, prime minister. But for me, when people ask me about Brexit, I said, I have a simple opinion. If Brexit was good, we wouldn't have 5 prime ministers. As simple as that. And if you take just that and start digesting and start demystifying the stuff in your head, then you will see all the lies. And going back to what I said earlier on, when something based on lie, everything collapses. And then we'll have to face the consequences and the truth and have to rebuild a healthier society.
But isn't this the problem of the whole world? It seems
Correct.
to be that the ones that are getting into power have, I don't know, some ulterior motive. And again, fear. It all comes back to it. It all comes back to fear of loss.
Back to fear, back to division, back to instilling the old saying, divide and rule. And we have moved on from the ages 2,000 years ago, 200 years ago. And therefore, we need a more conscious leadership out there and a better vision for humanity. One thing what people need to think on a daily basis, we share the same air, the same water, the same earth, and same fire. We share the elements, and then we share the same universe in which the earth is floating spacelessly in time and space. So if we become humble around that, we become humble with every human being. But it's a transformation, it's a growth. It needs a lot of education, it needs a lot of training, and it needs a lot of shifts in the mind. And it's all in the mind, Karen. No matter what you do, no matter what you want to create, if your mind is not in this growth cycle and continues to grow, it will remain average. And therefore, for anything you don't have, you start blaming other people. And we had 40 years or so, 50 years, fighting the Second World War, First World War together. We built the country with Europe, and suddenly we turned and said they are the enemies. That for me, it's a very poor leadership. And then going and manipulating the masses on lies, it's poor. Same happened in America, same happened in other countries. And this is why I believe the conscious leadership, it's a whole different level of leadership. Leadership that leads with love. And one of the fifth principle in here, in the Unfaithful Code book, states, let your heart be the only military commander that wins every battle in life. Because if you let your emotions, if you let your biases, cognitive biases, you'll create chaos. And then innocent people suffer as a result. We're looking at the wars. In today's consciousness, how much we've evolved from 100 years ago, to see wars around the world and to see this kind of separation instead of actually integrating and celebrating diversity, celebrating inclusion, celebrating love, celebrating people from different backgrounds. That's for me what great leadership is about. And bringing all of that together to be of a greater service to humanity, to your own country, to your own society, to family, to schools, to businesses, to healthcare, and then going globally. The more you go, the more you take care of the needs, the small needs around you, the more you can take care of the big needs and the bigger problem. I started working on a lot of small clients, and then I went global, because without me solving all those problems, you can't really grow. That happens the same for us. If you want to be a great leader, empower yourself financially, empower yourself emotionally, empower yourself with knowledge in a specific area, empower yourself with great communication knowledge, empower yourself to become a great speaker, empower yourself to learn how to listen to other people's values and being able to align what your values may contradict with what their values may contradict with yours. And most of the work that I do with a lot of my clients is actually around transforming and growing their mindset into more evolved and a more extraordinary mind. And when you create an extraordinary mind, you create an extraordinary life.
It starts with the individual. Again, I suppose we've given our power away. There's, again, everyone seems to be living in fear, and we've given our power away to external people that are perceived to be in a place of authority.
Yeah,
Rather
perceived
than,
authority, correct. Because nothing lasts, Karen. And this is what I encourage every person, think twice before you respond. Do some research before you vote for somebody. Do some research who they really stand for, because if they're against somebody, they're going to be against you eventually. Those values, those ethics, those heart energy, as you awaken those things, you can serve greater amount of people and being able to even solve the conflicts between people. But I don't believe in leaders who create more conflicts, to create more division, and therefore spread lies and spread, I would say, empty promises with no results behind that.
and I can't believe this. Stop. Okay, hang on. Let me make a note. Edit 37. Go away. That's why I've had my mic off. Timing. 37 point. The heart-mind connection. I mean, again, going back to, it's wonderful. People like the heart math. They're bringing the science together with this to understand that is where the magic happens. Like you say, it's all got to come. There's a lot of talk about being heart-centered, but people don't really understand the science behind that. But if people can, yes, like you say, you can't do anything bad. You can't, I don't think you could even actually do anything bad to anybody if you were doing everything from your heart. But it's amazing that, it is changing. I do believe it is changing because there are more people like yourself talking about it, and the science is now there to back it up.
Yes, there's a lot of scientific research out there. For instance, if you take the work of Dr. Joy Dispenza, Dr. John DiMartini, Joey Vitale, Tony Robbins, and all these giants, Jack Canfield, and all these people, some of them I serve and some of them I help. If you look at all of them, they all work in the space of actually elevating human consciousness and being able to support people in that growth. For me, I'm focusing on a lot of people who are 6 to 9, 7-figure business owners, so leaders. I have clients who are members of the royal family. I have clients who are politicians. I have clients who are coaches, mentors, speakers from all walks of life. So we are seeing an increased amount of people wanting to do a greater service for humanity and therefore solve more problems together. There is a movement in there. And yes, the mind-heart intelligence is a powerful intelligence that when we adopt, when you start truly loving yourself, Karen, you have zero desire to harm another human being. Even if they attack you, you will know within thyself that they are approaching you from some space of hurt, some space of pain, some space of disappointment, some space of fear. And therefore, if you become present with them, and if you truly guide them into the process, they will actually bring tears of inspiration as they realize that you're not the enemy and you're not the cause of their pain.
So what trends do you see over the next couple of years as more of this is being talked about and more people are reading your book?
Yes, I'm grateful because more than 1 million people are now readers of my books. And therefore, more and more people I've received over 15,000 emails with people saying, oh my God, you just wrote about me. And one thing I consistently say to, even on social media or when I'm TV, radio, share the work, share the wisdom, share the books so more people can benefit from that. And those who are ready to go and work at a very high level privately, by all means get in touch. And I have a range of services depending what the client wants. And they are extremely customized services. But people who work with me are people who really want to have accelerated growth and they want to serve greater amount of people, build great businesses, great products, write amazing books, and really bring their work out there to as many people as possible. And also I've launched my new product, which is called Into Your Divinity, which is basically taking client through my transformation work And there's a package behind that, a coaching package, and then filming them and then turn that into one episode of my documentaries, because I already have two documentaries. One is into your Living Your Illusion, Living My Illusion, The Truth Hurts on Amazon. People can go and watch it. And the other one is The Truth About Reading, also going through the film festivals around the world at the moment, that I am the executive producer for that. And now I'm creating also another documentary, which is about unique clients that I help them through year 2, 3, and turn their stories into unique documentaries so they can reach more people, they can grow their authority, their credibility, but also be vulnerable about their own processes of growth and then how they turn that into a service for humanity. So therefore they can sell more books, they can bring their purpose out there to as many people through film and through inspired stories. This is just an additional thing that I do to my clients, which is something that I truly love. Why? Because people love authentic people. And when you are vulnerable with your own story, I'm extremely vulnerable. I'm totally exposed about all of my life. But it's also my strength that many people around the world connect and reach out, and we do all sorts of work, whether it's business, whether it's leadership, whether it's politics, whether it's family problems, whether it's addiction, depression, because the work that I've created integrates and expands people across all of those areas to be able to overcome and heal, and therefore create bigger version of themselves and go on this extraordinary excellence path and live in extraordinary life while they do extraordinary work for humanity. So all of those things are part of the service that I know in every human being lives that voice of divinity, that light within us, that God-given intelligence. And I always say, to bring it out, you need the best people around you. Because a lot of people say, oh, I don't need anybody, I have all the intelligence. And you meet them 10 years down the line and they are where they are. And my response to that is, if what you're saying is true, then, God would just create the earth, and then the earth would create everything, the building, everything. No, it didn't. It also created humanity, men, women, and all of that, and being able for these people to take the resources from the earth and turn them into everything that we enjoy and have nowadays. The two are essential. And therefore, I always believe the more you want to grow, the more experts involved and pay, so they can help you extract this wisdom, this intelligence, and turn it into a service. And the more people you serve, the more you grow financially. The more your purpose grows, the more your love grows.
So what do you see coming next? Because again, we'll go back to the fear state with all things like AI, all this new tech. Again, there is so much fear. And again, fear of the unknown, because things are changing, right? It's changing. I don't know what's going to happen with even schooling, university in the future. Now it's all here. But again, because people are focusing on the problem rather than going, let's look for the solution and actually how we can use this amazing stuff to help humanity. Yes, there's going to be many jobs that are lost. Yes, it's just going to be a change. Again, we're so resistant to change. Where do you see things going? Because the more people understand this, the way I see it is that, if when they do accept it and they're not fearful from them, imagine how creative and there's going to be innovations coming up, because they won't have to go and work at that job anymore because that's been taken over by AI, whatever. So now they can think about doing more, serving more. But again, if people are going to be stuck in this fear state, it's not going to be good, is it?
So first and foremost, I invite all of our audience to go and watch my TEDx talk, which is also available on TED platform, Technological Armageddon, a wake-up call. While the artificial intelligence, it's keep growing now. A lot of the dialogue in the scientific community, and something I've been studying for the last 3 decades about singularity, back then was a science fiction. Now it's a reality, which means now we're at stages where artificial intelligence is overtaking human intelligence. And therefore, everything around will change. And it's already started to change, by the way. And I had the opportunity to observe a full medical dentist actually doing full mouth work, AI, with no human intervention. We're talking about there'll be so massive changes in the next 10 years, not 50 years, because, the changes we've gone within 30 years, AI can do it in 1 year. And as it develops even further, it can do it even in 1 month, and it can do it even in one day, frankly. I always say, people who watch the technological Armageddon, my main message in there is to move forward with caution, meaning being able to maximize what AI can do us to do greater good, but not to be blinded of the damage it can cause. So therefore, we can have a great plan, great strategy. But unfortunately, most countries in the world, most leaders in the world are nowhere near up to date with what currently AI is doing in the world. And majority of the AI has been designed in people's basements, in homes and everything else. So we don't have the society or the businesses or anything set up in a way to actually promote healthy growth of artificial intelligence. And when we have these problems in human consciousness about war, for instance, in Ukraine, war in other places around the world, famine and stuff like that. Now, if you have that powerful tool to somebody with a very lower animalistic mind, it can create damage beyond our comprehension. So for me, it's about bringing people together to be able to have the right conversations and also put in place the laws that need to be put in place to better make use of artificial intelligence, but also prevent some of the catastrophes that AI can implement on humanity. And when I did my technological Armageddon talk, it's based on my book, #Loneliness. So I was in US, and the organizer of the TED conference opened the book, and he went, "You're going to give a TEDx talk on this topic." And I did the topic, so it's now 6 years ago. But the message is timeless of what I delivered in that talk. So now it has over 1 million views, and it keeps growing on the views. Why? Because now it's become even more topical. And in that, the main message for me, from me to humanity, is to be able to put everything in place and safeguard the sanctity of human life. So that's how dangerous or powerful it can be, because imagine AI war out there. We've seen now, for instance, we've seen in Ukraine and Russia, they already implemented drones to kill one another. Now, and when you have people at that level where they want to control, they want to make one nation extinct and disappear out of this planet, this is where the danger of AI can come. But also the danger, in one of the messages during my talk in there, it's about the privacy we know now will disappear totally. And in the future, we'll be able to upload and download somebody else's brain totally into our brain. So now, can you imagine what that can do? Okay, so we're moving into a space which is very, I call it the terra incognita of human consciousness. And that's the term I created because I use the terra incognita in some of my books and everything else about about where we navigate in ourselves. So therefore, it is very crucial for you to empower and grow yourself. Why? Because with that growth, then you can make the best use of artificial intelligence to be able to solve big problems and being able to grow a business and being able to do a lot of things. Every area in our life will change with AI. And it's since I was a kid, I was imagining this era, by the way, that we are right now, where I wanted to have my own holographic doctors. I grew up with Star Trek. So therefore, for me, Star Trek technology was also something that forced me to study engineering and science because I wanted those inventions. And suddenly we have those inventions. And I implemented AI in my business on different levels. And fine, if you use it for greater good. But unfortunately, not everybody's operating system in their mind is good in the world. So therefore, there's a massive danger attached to it. So I think every area will be impacted. Healthcare, governance. When we talking about recently at the UN, AI said, we can run the country better than your leaders. And then also it said, we can kill those people that we don't need to. We're going into a space where AI can create its own language, its own algorithm. This has happened in 2017 when I delivered my talk, where Facebook had to shut down the entire AI department because it created its own language and nobody could understand what they were doing. The opportunities are there, but we should not be blinded to the downsides of what AI can do for humanity. We need to have this balanced perspective, and also we need to step up as human beings, as leaders, as business owners.
Oh, yes. That is it. I'm sure there was a film about it, wasn't there, Tony? And it didn't end well.
Yes, there's many possibilities in here, and AI can explore all those possibilities without human emotion attached to it. And what makes us also human is our ability to sense emotions and our ability to self-reflect and do all of those things. But if you have a new species now, which is super intelligence. And this is why I say in my TED talk, I call it CASIT, which is conscious artificial super intelligence technology. And then I have it the other side, which is cataclysmic super intelligence technology, that something can make disasters very easily happen. So when you have now technology fighting, you can imagine the kind of destruction it can be created. So therefore, the right policies when it comes to the AI design, AI is being now just sold freely wherever you want. You can buy some kind of AI, and it's all done without any really formal regulation. And some governments are starting to make some. Even current Prime Minister Rishi Sunak was doing some kind of, I would say, talks and stuff like that around AI. But we are far from having the society ready for the technology that already is here now.
But I still think it's all going to come good. There's so much, and I suppose this is the thing. Yes, I get it. If it's left into the wrong hands, it could be horrendous. But the flip side of that, actually, it will free people up to be a little bit more creative, innovative, and actually looking to improve things further. I hope that's my hope anyway.
Yes, as I said to you, it's the key in this is for people to keep educating themselves and keep becoming relevant. Because if you're not upgrading your knowledge, if you're not upgrading your skills and everything else, you will become irrelevant. And when you will become irrelevant, this is where I predict there'll be a lot of social unrest. Why? Because we are not preparing people to be almost like handheld in with AI, create bigger things together. You may have individuals, which is great, fantastic work, but then masses are not prepared for that. Part of my work with all of my clients is being able to transform that and being able to create a pathway, a clear plan, a clear strategy, how to implement AI and how to be able to, let's say, grow their employees, grow their children, grow their family in a way that actually supports the future in which artificial intelligence is in symbiosis with human intelligence.
Yeah. And I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. Yes, I know I remember watching a film that didn't end well, but I still believe that there's enough people that are heart mind connected that will take us where we need to go.
When
So,
you said I still believe, Britney Spears comes in my head.
oh,
I still believe, still believe. Hit me, baby, one more time.
So, Tony, if to the listeners, how do they find you? How do they find all your books and all the things that you've done? Because there is so much there, and I love the fact that you really are encompassing absolutely everything. So, yeah, if you're watching this on social media or YouTube, you'll have all of Tony's details below. But anybody who's just listening in, how do they find you?
The first thing, they can go to Google. Google will tell you a lot about me. So they can type in Tony Selimi, Tony J. Selimi, Tony Yeton Selimi, or they can go to my website, tonyselimi.com, TonySelimi.com. And in there, they'll find all the links to my social media. They can connect, they can follow, they can subscribe to my newsletter. Also, I have a unique newsletter on LinkedIn, which is called it's part of the Unfakeable Code, and it's called Unfakeably Influence the World, meaning you use your own authenticity to be able to make a great influence. And in there, I share a lot of different topics, weekly, bi-weekly sometimes, so people can use it to grow. So there's a lot of content on there. They can start reading Path to Wisdom, #Loneliness, The Unfakeable Code, The Path to Excellence. And I've just finished the draft of my latest book called Climb Greater Heights. And this is the first time I'm exposing the name, by the way, because I already copyrighted it and trademarked it. And this is specifically a book about entrepreneurs, about people who are in 9 to 5 considering to build a business, or the existing small, medium, large business owners, and taking them through 12-step growth accelerator method so they can step into philanthropy and prosperity and purpose. Meaning, the more you grow financially in your business, the more you can direct certain amount of profits into philanthropic projects, but also purpose being the driving force behind all the transformation within the business, within the leaders, within its people.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today, Tony. As always, it's always an absolute pleasure to be speaking with you. So much knowledge, so much passion for what he does. So Thank you. And to the listeners, I will be back on Thursday with a coffee with Karen. Bye for now.
The Coffee with Karen podcast, a weekly chat show discussing everything from holistic health to current affairs from a mental, physical, and spiritual perspective. Get your weekly cup of positivity with a sprinkling of woo-woo.